Hey YouTube, in this video I'm going to be doing an update on my Kagero deck, or Dragonic Overlord, the clan deck. So basically, with the previous one, it seems like the deck seemed kind of slow, and there was a little bit of too much issues with soul gain, so I kind of went back and redid the deck to address those issues. So in playtesting it, it seems like it's a little bit better now, but I feel like this clan in general is still kind of slow. It doesn't have a very like, you can't really close out a game on turn 3 the way you can with other clans that are in the force group, like for example Claret Sword and decks like Musketeers and Arbros that can run like, you know, force 2 and then get away with crit killing the opponent early. Kagero can't really do that. It's a little bit slower still. So, but the deck is still really fun to play, and Dragonic Overlord has always been one of my favorite archetypes for Kagero specifically. So, still running for Dragonic Overlord the Great, because I feel like he's still my favorite form of the Great. As you can see by the playmat, I've got the original the Great and Neoflame back from Legion format. So I'm still running him as the main Vanguard to try to use in the middle to late part of the game. But then to close out the game, I recognize that Waterfall is still the best finisher that the clan currently has. So I didn't take him out altogether. I feel like he's still essential. So 4 of him seems a little bit too many, because sometimes sometimes if you have to ride him as the first Vanguard, and that does happen even when you run 3, it doesn't really do a whole lot, because usually you're banking on your opponent having a grade 2 or greater rear guard. And sometimes when they're up against Kagero, they won't do that. They'll try to hold back until they ride up to grade 3. So if you go first, they're just going to let you get the Waterfall out, or even Overlord. Like, the Great would be just as bad, maybe a little bit better because he can call Neoflame, but again, that's situational. So there's a little bit of inconsistency issues with the Vanguard line right now, and you can't really fix that if you're running Overlord and Waterfall. It's just inherent weaknesses in the 2 cards based off of the current meta. So to mitigate that, I'm still running 2 Dragonic Overlord, the original one from the trial deck, mainly because he is a good backup Vanguard. Like, he is actually a pretty decent first Vanguard. Honestly, like, he's better than both of them as a first Vanguard, but he's not very good as a late game Vanguard. So that's why I still favor running more of those guys over Overlord. But I do run 2 of him just because you can see him like once per game. And you can also call him out to a rearguard circle and do his Soul Blast to gain 10k power as Vanguard or rearguard. So there is that capability as well. I mean, the only other card budget-wise that I would consider running over Dragonic Overlord is Cruel Dragon, mainly because Cruel Dragon has an on-hit as a rearguard to Soul Charge 1, and the deck Soul tends to be the biggest resource issue with the deck. But otherwise, Dragonic Overlord, the Great, and Waterfall are the grade 3 lineup. For grade 2s, for Berserk Dragon, because Berserk Dragon's still the best turn 2 ride in the deck. Basically, when you ride him as Vanguard, he counterblasts and Soul Blast to retire at any rearguard of the opponents. You get to pick, so it could be back row, it could be front row, it doesn't matter what grade. That's why he's really good. And then you get to draw a card on top of that. Now, he doesn't get the draw power if he's a rearguard, but he still gets to blow anything up. And it's pretty good, and he can swing 13k to a Vanguard if you have more rearguards than the opponent. So, very, very good card overall. And it's from BT01, so it's kind of hard to find now, but it's still really, really good. Next, because of the Great, you got to run 4 Dragonic Neoflame. Neoflame is the Legion mate from the Legion era. 4 of him, because he's a big part of the deck when you are running Dragonic Overlord the Great, because essentially what you do is you attack with him, then when you attack with the Great restands him and himself, so you get a total of 4 attacks, 2 Vanguard attacks and 2 rearguard attacks, and that doesn't count your other rearguard attacks. So you can get a total of 5 attacks that turn with those 2 cards on the field, and assuming some other rearguard on the field. So Neoflame's really good. He also gives Overlord the Great 5k power until end of battle when Overlord the Great attacks. So pretty essential to the deck. And then here's where it gets a little interesting. So for the remaining grade 2, I put 2 different ones. One of them is Dragon full armored Buster. So I'm running 2 of him because not 3 or 4, because sometimes like I said earlier, Soul is a really limited resource in this deck. So if you have to ride him early, then that's fine. You do his effect, you get to check top 7, look for a card with Overlord. So he's good at searching the Great or the regular Overlord, so that gives you 6 targets to search. And he's still justified at 2 because I run 6 of them. If I ran 8 of them, then you could run a 3rd one of him. If you ran all Overlords, like no Waterfall, just Overlords like Van and Overlord and the Great, or any combination where it's all Overlord, then definitely 4 of him. But then you'd have to, you know, focus on managing the Soul a lot more strictly than the current build, because his Soul Blast 2 cost is extremely expensive, and using that up, it's kind of hard to use the other effects like Berserk Dragon, for instance, or even like Overlord Soul Blast 1 effect to power up, that kind of stuff. So the only other grade 2 besides him is Dragonic Burnout. Originally I was running Nehalem. Nehalem, I didn't like him because it is nice that he gives you the plus 5k power, but he only retires back row, whereas this guy retires anything. This guy's effect is also a main phase effect, which means if they don't have a rearguard for you to retire, when you call him down, you don't have to hesitate the way you do with Nehalem sometimes. So you can just call him down, let him attack, or he can be that like 5th attacker. And then later on, if you need to retire something, you can, and he puts a grade 2 or greater from the drop zone on the bottom of the deck. So kind of an interesting card. He's always been a really interesting card for the Overlord builds. So 2 of him and 2 fully armored Buster, or full armored Buster. So kind of a weird lineup if you look at it, because it's what, 9 grade 3s and 12 grade 2s, which means the grade 1 lineup is only going to be like 13 or 12 grade 2s, as you'll see, which is kind of the minimum of what I would do for grade 1s in terms of ride consistency. So first we're running 4 Sabel Dragonewt. He's just like Berserk Dragon, he's your optimal ride target for the grade 1s. So when he hits, you get to draw a card when he's Vanguard. And then he also has a rearguard effect. When you retire an opponent's rearguard, or when your opponent's rearguard is retired, during your turn you can retire him to draw a card. So he replaces himself, so it kind of helps you, in those mirror matchups or something like that, or if you're up against like Link Joker or something. Next we run 4 Flame of Hope Aermo. He's really, really essential to run max copies because you need the counter charge. And the deck is also very counterblast heavy. The Great counterblasting, Overlord counterblasting on restand, Berserk Dragon primarily, sometimes Burnout. There's a lot of counterblast, especially after the next card. You'll see why. So the last card I'm running, this might surprise some people, is 4 Dragonic Gaias. But I found that I was using Calamity Tower Wyvern and Raupia, and Raupia was kind of hit or miss. Sometimes he would get you a good call. Most of the time he'd just kind of sit there and be an 8k booster, because this deck doesn't retire like so much. It retires sometimes, usually with Berserk Dragon, and then occasionally with Waterfall coming to the field. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of retire power. Maybe one of those 2 guys will retire something. But Gaius is in here mainly to put him into the Soul and give you a critical in exchange for Counterblast 1. So, he's good because he synergizes well with the resource issues that we may run into with running cards like this, that Soul Blast a lot. So, yeah, Dragonic Gaias, critical pressure, really good. And then for the trigger lineup, of course, Barri, you got to run your draw triggers, and then your 8 criticals. So pretty much all the trial deck stuff, just Barri is the one exception. And then, 4 heals, and then the trial deck starter, Undeux. So that's basically the deck, guys. It didn't really change too much. The only thing I can think of is maybe, if I was going to run 4 Waterfall, I don't really recommend running this guy if you're going to run 4 Waterfall. You want to have at least 6 Overlords for this guy to be worth running in the deck. So that's why I'm running 6 Overlords. Otherwise, if you want to run more of him, you got to run more Overlords. I don't have the End. People are probably going to ask, why wasn't the End in here? I don't have that card. And I don't really care to run that card, because I prefer the Great anyway. And if I was going to change the deck further, I'd probably drop 1 Waterfall for another Overlord, and that will be it. So the deck won't really change much for the foreseeable future until like Kagero gets the next wave of support. But yeah, I don't plan on building the N anytime soon. I'm probably just going to skip it completely. Maybe if it becomes really, really cheap, I might grab it later on once it's already, you know, not really a thing. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that deck profile video, and let me know what other type of Kagero videos you want to see, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.